In 2001, only a year after Radiohead's groundbreaking Kid A was released, the band would release another album titled Amnesiac. It was full of songs mostly recorded from the same sessions as Kid A, but with almost an entirely different feel. Some brush the album off as Kid A B-sides, but the album truly is its own thing. In today's video, I'm going to be analyzing all of Amnesiac's tracks. Not if the songs are necessarily good or bad, but an in-depth look at the lyrics, their meaning, and how the song was made. My name's Stemp, and this is a tribute to Amnesiac. Packed Like Sardines in a Crushed Tin Box was originally titled Popad. The intro track to Amnesiac is interesting, to say the least. It's somewhat cold, and the instrumentation feels alien. The song is made up of manipulated, compressed audio loops, and almost none of it is too familiar until Tom's voice kicks in. But yet his voice is still distorted. It's not incredibly noticeable, but it's definitely there. After years of waiting, nothing came. As your life flashed before your eyes, you realize. The narrator is stuck in this place for years on end, hoping it would bring him to where he wanted to go, only for this place to mislead him. As the song title implies, we're all sardines crushed in a little box, stuck in our meaningless lives with no means of escape because we were looking in the wrong place the whole time. The chorus then kicks in. I'm a reasonable man. Get off my case. The narrator isn't a bad person, truly, but society may set him up to be one, a somewhat relevant topic in today's context, with celebrities often being canceled for things that the public may not like, but in the grand scheme of things might not be all that bad. It's a great opener, but the next track is really what sets the mood for the album. According to Colin, the inception of this song was when they were in Copenhagen and Tom went around the Museum of Culture. There was an exhibition of Egyptian underworld and tomb art, of people being ferried across the river of death. He was very affected by it, and he went back, sat behind the piano, and wrote this. The working title of the song was Egyptian Song, and it originally premiered on June 13th of 1999 at the Tibetan Freedom Concert, with the most notable change being the opening lyrics. In 2001, Ed O'Brien said that Pyramid Song was probably the best track they've recorded, and it's hard to argue with that. The lyrics are dark but memorable. Tom said when asked about the song that Stephen Hawking talks about the theory of time as if it's another force, that time is completely cyclical. It's something that he found in Buddhism as well. That's what Pyramid Song is about, that everything is going in circles. Even with everything going in circles being the point of the track, a lot of people's theories around the song are that it's about suicide. And the music video backs this idea up. It follows a character going into this underwater town and sitting in a chair before disconnecting their oxygen tank. Also, speaking of which, there's a side quest in Cyberpunk 2077 called Pyramid Song, where you swim around in a sunken city. I don't want to spoil too much because the game's fairly new, but it is a beautiful mission and was one of my favorites from the game. Throughout the track, a wailing sound is heard in the back. It is created by Johnny bowing the guitar strings while running his fingers down the fretboard, which is supposed to emulate a whale cry. The same effect was later used for Burn the Witch in 2016 as well. The track's rhythm is also played so that it makes a pyramid. The track, like many of Radiohead's, is haunting yet beautiful. The band perfectly encapsulates the feeling they were going for. And then Pulk Pull Revolving Doors is a track about doors, maybe. A rather odd track, this song is built around a rhythm pattern made with the MC505 drum machine, along with some loops from OK Computer sessions. These can actually be heard on the OK Not OK cassette released in 2017, on the True Love tape loop. Also, Tom's vocals are vocoderized through a synth, similar to the way his vocals were distorted in the title track for Kid A. The main interpretation of the track is that it's about life choices, and how these choices could be like doors, letting you in and out or trapping you and not being able to come back from it. The track is extremely similar to Kid A's title track, with the distorted vocals and creepy instrumental. The track is often overlooked, but I think without it the album wouldn't feel quite right. But after all those doors have opened, You and Whose Army is a track that, according to Tom, is about someone being elected into power by people who then blatantly betray them. Specifically, when the song released, it related to Tony Blair, the British Prime Minister at the time. I won't dive into the specifics of Tom's distaste for the man to stay out of political discussions. I'd rather save that for when I inevitably do Hail to the Thief. The track's sound was trying to capture a soft, warm proto-doo-wop sound of the 1940s harmony group, the Ink Spots. To capture this, the band muffled the microphone with egg boxes and used the Onde Martineau resonating palm diffuser loudspeaker to treat the vocals. The song's debut was during a live performance in 2000, before even Kid A had been released. The track was also a return to the band playing the songs all together in a room, which hadn't been done previously, at least not since OK Computer for the band. The song is very soft and warm until about the halfway point when the drums kick in and the piano as well. And everything crescendos to a boom as Tom wails out his lyrics. The lyrics on this track are rather simple and serve as somewhat of an insult to who the narrator is singing to. Tom taunts them and tries to undercut their abilities. He asks, "You and whose army? You and your cronies?" almost as a scoff towards his opposition. The final verse, Tom sings about ghost horses, possibly talking about a false, transparent threat. This song was also featured in Peaky Blinders. 2 other tracks from Amnesiac also made an appearance in the show, Life in a Glasshouse and I Might Be Wrong. It's a guitar-oriented track that uses a blues riff written by Johnny. The track made its debut in 2000 as a solo acoustic track, which at the time was much slower than the album version. I Might Be Wrong is another track with Tom's vocals somewhat distorted. He sings of, as the title of the song suggests, being wrong. In the chorus, he sings of thinking about the good times and never looking back, sort of a contradiction of itself. He later sings of how he used to think there was nothing left at all, which, according to Tom, is a document of him being in a complete crisis point. He lived at a beach, and one night he was out on his own and looked back at the house. And even though he knew there was nobody there, he could see a figure walking about inside. He then went back to the house and recorded this track with that presence still there. The song really comes as much from what his long-term partner Rachel was saying to him. Like she does all the time, be proud of what you had done. Don't look back, just carry on like nothing's happened. Just let the bad stuff go. When someone's constantly trying to help you out and you're trying to express something really awful, you're desperately trying to sort yourself out and you can't. You just can't. And then one day you finally hear them. You finally understand after months and months of utter torment. And that's what the song's about. When prompted with theories about the song, stating that the song is about a merging of life and death and getting past your mistakes, and you're questioning what comes in the afterlife, the waterfall represents moving on to the next world, and when he sees the light, he thinks he may have seen death, but then he realizes there is a future, and that he wants to live life to the fullest. Tom gave this theory an 11 out of 10, saying that he spent a lot of time watching things die, watching the seasons change, flowers bloom, rivers gurgle. He was also reading the Tibetan Book of Death at the time. The title, I Might Be Wrong, is thought to have been taken from a quote by British mathematician and philosopher Bertrand Russell. I would never die for my beliefs because I might be wrong. Tom said he likes the song to have multiple meanings, and the relationship angle is one of them. He also said that the light coming on and no future left at all parts were talking about dying. He used to think there was no afterlife and nothing he did in his lifetime mattered, but now that's different. His life has meaning now. So he can be happy and enjoy the good times because he can look back at those times after his mortal life has ended. The track has plenty of history behind it, but from here the band only amps it up to 10 with Knives Out is a chillingly beautiful track with a kick-ass music video and was even one of the singles for Amnesiac. The song was made during Kid A sessions when the band and Tom still felt everything they made wasn't quite good enough. It took time for them to realize how good the track actually was. Tom said that they had lost their nerve. It was so straight ahead, they thought that we gotta put that in the bin, it's too straight. We couldn't possibly do anything that straight until we had gone and been completely arse about face with everything else. In order to feel good about doing something straight like that, it took 373 days to be arse about face enough to realize it was alright the way it was. The song made its debut on one of Radiohead's live broadcasts on their website in 1999, sounding very similar to the album's release version. According to Tom, the meaning of the song is that it's partly the idea of a businessman walking out on his wife and kids and never coming back. It's also the 1,000-yard stare when you look at someone close to you and you know they're gonna die. It's like a shadow over them, or the way they look straight through you. The shine goes out of their eyes. He's also said that Knives Out was inspired by several different situations. It doesn't hurt many people when someone disappears. They can take advantage of what remains. In short, the lyrics are more violent than the feelings behind them. The song is also about the death of people close to him. Each song tries to elucidate things that he doesn't understand. Knives Out is especially brutal because it's a desperate attempt at solving something very complicated for Tom. The track is definitely one of my top 3 on the album and is the song that really got me into Amnesiac in the first place. But after this track is something that feels like a distant memory. This track was previously seen in Kid A, a distinctly different version, but both share similar lyrics. But with the tonal shift the song takes on this different vibe, it sounds like a distant memory. It's less energetic and slower than the Kid A version, and when asked about why this version was included on Amnesiac, Ed O'Brien said that we often record different versions of songs, and the new one is the first time that it's been strong enough to bear hearing again. Most of the other versions often get scrapped halfway through. Tom said on the matter that Morning Bell / Amnesiac was included because it came from such a different place from the other version, because they had only found it again by accident after having forgotten about it, because it sounds like a reoccurring dream. It felt right. With the memory and forgetful themes across Amnesiac, it only makes sense to include a track like that. I have previously covered the meaning behind the lyrics in my Tribute to Kid A series, so I'm just going to give a brief rundown on the track, and if you'd like a more in-depth analysis, be sure to check out the original video. But basically, the idea of the track is that Tom bought a house after OK Computer's touring and felt as if there was a ghost in the house. He said it was something he just knew. During his time, he had filled up a whole mini-disc of songs, ramblings, and whatever else. Then there was a power outage that erased the disc. On the disc was the original version of Morning Bell, lyrics and all. When the disc was wiped, he was bummed out, but didn't think much of it at the time, as that was just the general vibe of the house at the time. He forgot all about Morning Bell, and then about 6 months later, after being sleep-deprived, the song came back to him, exactly as he had originally written it. It was about that house that he was in, and how he felt living there. There was also a popular theory for the track being about a breakup, or a divorce, which you can interpret that way if you'd like. As while Tom and the band may have a meaning for the track, it doesn't mean you have to have the same meaning. That's just part of the magic of Radiohead. Dollar and Cents is a track that started as a live jam, a section of 11-minute improvisation that got edited down to the best bits, with Tom's lyrics actually just being a one-take. He said they came out as sort of gibberish, but he likes it that way. The lyrics seem to be slightly different in live performances, and because of their gibberish nature, they aren't 100% understandable even in the album version, causing discourse among fans about what the track's meaning is. But the general idea is that it's an anti-government in nature, similar to the themes that we saw on OK Computer. The general idea of the title and the lyrics of the chorus is that we the people are no longer individuals to the government, but rather an economic statistic and just target markets for big corporations. But from here comes Hunting Bears. This interlude instrumental track binds together Dollar and Cents and Like Spinning Plates, two tracks incredibly different from each other. The track title is most likely a reference to the imagery of bears that became a mainstay for Radiohead. When asked about all the bear imagery in their music, Tom said that it stemmed initially from a deep paranoia of genetic engineering, and then from a children's book. You know, creating monsters only to awaken one morning to the terrible truth that there is nothing you can do to stop them. But as I suggested earlier, this track binds together Dollar and Cents with Like Spinning Plates is the second to last track, and it's a rather experimental one. Very similar in sound to many tracks off Kid A, the song is made up of distorted vocals from Tom that are actually played backwards, because he sang them backwards. And in fact, this track was made out of frustration over an electric version of I Will, a track that would later make an appearance on Hail to the Thief. The version was the Like Spinning Plates instrumental backwards from what we know it now, with the lyrics of I Will over top. The band being dissatisfied, they came up with Like Spinning Plates. Reversing it gave it an eerie feeling that Tom liked. And so Tom pieced together lyrics to match this instrumental and sung them backwards to keep the ominous vibe. But only the first verse is reversed. The chorus of the track is a normal recording, which is why it doesn't sound nearly as odd there. And in another reference to Tony Blair before a live performance of the track, Tom stated that this is dedicated to our glorious leaders, or at least some of them, who saw fit to take us to a war that nobody wanted, kill thousands, if not tens of thousands, of innocent people. And they should go to their graves with that in their consciousness. This track leads to my personal favorite track off Amnesiac and the closer of the album. Life in a Glasshouse is a jazzy track born slightly after OK Computer's release, but wasn't recorded for quite some time as they didn't know how to do it right. They enlisted Humphrey Littleton, a renowned English trumpeter, to help make the song. Johnny wrote to him asking for his help as they were stuck, and he really wanted it to sound like a New Orleans jazz funeral. A feeling of both morose and liveliness was the idea, and I think they captured it magnificently. It's an absolutely beautiful track and is one of my all-time favorite Radiohead tracks. Tom said that on Life in a Glasshouse, he's desperate for people to understand all the words because they're really important. It began after he read an interview of a wife of a famous actor who the tabloids completely hounded for months. She got copies of the papers with her picture and posted them all over the house and all over the windows so that all the cameras that were outside on her lawn only had their own images to photograph. He thought it was brilliant, and that's where the song really came from. It was just really sad. Awful story about her desperately trying to cope while he's off filming. And the only reason she was being hounded was because it was rumored he was having an affair with his leading actress. He thought nobody deserves this, especially when they're a completely innocent party. From there, it developed into a complete rant about tabloid journalism destroying people at will, tying people to the stake and watching them burn. This track is the perfect closer. It wraps up the album with a bang, solidifying its place in Radiohead's discography. This album as a whole was received mostly positively, but some felt the album was lacking compared to Kid A. And while I personally prefer Kid A, I love Amnesiac and think that Radiohead's discography wouldn't be nearly complete without it. And with that being said, this concludes a tribute to Amnesiac. This has been Stemp. Thank you for watching.